Welcome to day 2 of factoring trinomials when a does not equal 1. It actually says day 1. Go ahead and cross that off and make sure it does say day 2. Okay, as we move on, we are going to start by solving equations. So the first equation I have here is 2x squared minus 3x minus 35 equals 0. Now yesterday we talked a lot about guessing and checking, and so what you can do is you have to figure out what are my factors of 2, what are my factors of 35. Well, my only factors of 2 are going to be 1 and 2. My only factors of 35, I've got 35 and 1 and 5 and 7. Now, knowing math well enough, I can also decide that, you know what, 35 and 1 is not going to give me 3. So I'm going to cross those off and just assume that I can go with 5 and 7, which means I've got 2 options. I actually have 4 options if I change my signs. So I've got 2x plus 5 and x minus 7, or I have 2x plus 7 and x minus 5. Now remember, if you look at this right here, this negative sign, that tells me that my signs are different. Since my signs are different, I know that one has to be addition and one has to be subtraction. So if I look through, I need to then figure out which one actually is going to work correctly. Okay, so now I can look and say, if I factor these out, you only have to do the insides and the outsides. So if I do my inside and my outside, I can factor out and I get negative 9. If I do my inside and my outside, I can factor out and I get my negative 3. Well, negative 3 is what I'm actually looking for here. So I'm left knowing that this is my correct way to factor. Once I have done that, now I just need to solve. Notice that there is a plus or equals 0 at the end, so I just need to solve. So you go ahead and choose that equation, and I set it equal to 0. Now that's very easy, we know, because I can now just set each equation equal to 0, where I have my 2x plus 7 equals 0 and my x plus 5 also equal to 0. From here I just solve for x, and I know that negative 7 halves and a negative 5 are my 2 answers that I'm looking for. Now if you put a negative 3.5, I would also accept that as well because it is the same thing. So guessing and checking, when you only have a couple options, it does work pretty well. But my first personal favorite is to slide and divide. So we're going to do that next. We're going to take our 4 and go ahead and circle your 4 on the problem number 2. And we're going to slide it over and multiply times a negative 3. So now I know that 4 times a negative 3 is a negative 12, and I can rewrite my equation. So now I have y squared, because my 4 is gone, plus 11y minus 12 equals 0. From here, I am able to continue on, and I know that if I factor these out, they have to be different signs, because that second sign is negative. And so since I have different signs, one is positive, one is negative, so y minus 1 and y plus 12. I've done the slide part. Don't forget to divide. I have to divide by that number that I moved over, which in this case is 4. So if I divide both of them by 4, I am now left with y minus 1/4 and y plus 12. Well, I know that 12 over 4 is 3, so I can go ahead and write 3 in there instead. And what you want to do is you want to divide back, let's get a pen. I want to divide move my 4 back up so that I can now have 4y minus 1 and my y plus 3. When this is the case, I can set both equal to 0. And when I have done that, I know that y equals 1/4 and y equals negative 3. Hopefully you are starting to realize that if you have 1/4 here, it is the opposite of what it is before you move it over. If I've got a negative 3 here, it is the opposite of my positive 3, which was currently there. All right, now when we move on to our next question, there's something you have to do first because it isn't quite a trinomial. We've got to move our 3 over. So once I've done that, you should be able to solve. I'm going to stop the problem here, and I want you to go in and answer the questions. Okay, you have 2 methods. You can choose slide and divide, or you can choose to guess and check. Personally, I choose to slide and divide, so we're going to work through here. I've got t squared minus 2t now equals a negative 24 because I took that 8 over and took it times my 3. Now I just have to split into two different sets of parentheses. When I've got my negative 24, I know that since this is a negative, my signs are different. I'm going to split those up into one negative, one positive, and I have 6 and 4. And a negative 6 and a positive 4 is going to give me a negative 2. Don't forget to divide. I now have to divide by what number? My 8, because I slid that over. I've got to divide by that same number. So now I have t plus 4/8 and t minus 6/8. So I have t plus 1/2 and t plus 3/4. Now what's going to happen is I can slide it back and I have my 2t plus 1 and 4t minus 3. So my answers are actually going to be your negative 1/2 and your positive 3/4 like we talked about earlier. But if you want to check it, I feel like a lot of you have a really good ability to check your work and some don't so much, and you really kind of should just to make sure you're on the right track. If you want to check, all you have to do is to take this equation right here and FOIL it out. So if I FOIL this equation out, I actually do get that original problem. That was right up there. So I have that original problem, my original trinomial, comes back if I FOIL that out. All right, last problem. So this one, again, I want you to go ahead and try it on your own. You can do either slide or divide or guess and check. And now what we're going to do is I personally, again, like to slide and divide. So I'm moving my 10 over. I'm going to get 40. So I'm going to rewrite as c squared minus 14c plus 40 equals 0. Now I'm going to take my 40, I'm going to divide it up into 8 and 5. Since this is positive, both of my signs are the same and they're going to both be negative. So negative 8 and a negative 5 gives me a negative 14. Don't forget to divide by that original 10 that you slid over. So I'm dividing by 10, reducing, and I get 4/5, and I get 1/2. Move that bottom number. Right now I can go ahead and do my answer key, because I know that it's the opposite of 4/5 and the opposite of 1/2, which is positive for both of those. I can move those back over and I get 5c minus 4, 2c minus 1, and I can check it to make sure I am correct. At the end of this video, please make sure you do your level of understanding, and we will go over more in class tomorrow.